This is Kal Kat, the Kal Kat turn. First I saw Ne Zha 2, and now I just saw Ne Zha 1. Um, um, yeah, the earlier one is more like a Pixar movie, actually. It's more like Mulan meets Last Raya, then meets a little bit of the a little bit more Coco than and Luca than it is more than Turning Red. Anyway, but yeah, it's a the original movie film was on YouTube. Here, they had it was a dubbed one, so it was a dubbed, but it was a pretty good dub. I mean, they tried to emulate the characters in the story. They didn't screw it up. I don't think it was true to the original. Pretty much, I guess. Hopefully, these dub actors get to do the part 2 eventually, put in English. But yeah, so we have. But the one I saw part 2 was subtitled. But this, it was fine and good too. The sequel, the original, sets up the characters in the story from the show as a movie, as a rendition of the series as a movie, sort of like an OVA. Which is Japan. I know it's not China; it's Japan. It does those, but this is China, and the story, the cultural stuff going on. Westerner don't get some of it. I do get some of it though, because I get a little bit of it. They're just more of a Buddhist movie. It's more of that thing, and it's got more of a all that good and evil aren't necessarily literally black and white characters. They're sort of mixed in, kind of like the yin and yang thing. Which isn't really good and evil. Yin and yang is just opposites. It's not really good and evil. They're little dots. But yeah, the opposite ends of a spectrum kind of thing. There are these two spheres that end up in the spiritual energy sphere things in the story. They end up being, one of them ends up inhabiting the dragon guy, and one ends up hanging in Ningha, the finger in Ningha, and probably saying the names wrong. and the evil one quote unquote, goes into the boy one in the village, and it's about his growing up to be about 3. I guess he's some sort of alien, demigod. So when he's 3, it's like he's maybe 9 or 10. So yeah, they're age fast. Because otherwise it would be like, they're beating up on a 3-year-old and it's destroying things. We messed up. So yeah, they can only talk and fight and kung fu and do stuff. Kung Fu Panda elements of that, which was an American film. Something like that. And they made the dragons more westernized in the dubbing. But I think they were kind of like that anyway in the movies. So I don't know if that's. I thought the Chinese dragons were supposed to be powerful and not necessarily good or evil. They were just sort of like they're above the other people in the universe in that story. Unlike Western dragons, which are like flying around and going after knights and castles and stuff, and they're not. They don't seem sentient as much sentience as Eastern dragons. The Eastern dragons are talking to them and floating around and doing stuff and the symbols and all that. Clearly the earlier one spends more time on the building the character. The kid that grows up and does the stuff. Or is the sequel, isn't supposed to take place 5 years later, but kind of does. And he goes Super Saiyan in this one and the other one, like in Dragon Ball Z, which is Japanese. I know it's different, but they make him kind of look like, okay. But yeah, and Super Saiyan puberty. This one, they kind of show the space god as sort of a ethereal force. There's other things going on. There's a and so the birthday party where they have, or he's gonna like be taken up to the space gods, and he breaks out of the thing, and the evil, sniveling, sort of Voldemort-looking bad guy is the cheetah god as well. He's referenced in the second one more, and there's actually an orange claw cheetah cat guy reference in Ne Zha Part 2. There's a kid one too in that one. So it's interesting because in Part 2 you have Orange Claw as a kid, sort of. Anyway, but yeah, so you have this one is an older man. Yeah. He reminds me of Voldemort crossed with the Joker. He's evil. He's supposed to be like that in the sequel as well. He's like the underboss of the dragon guy, the main dragon guy that has sort of almost a George Takei voice, but it's not George Takei. I think it actually is either Liam Neeson or someone like Liam Neeson. It's not actually him. It's someone similar. It's a dragon. Yeah. So, and the dragon's sister shows up at the end in the end credits. I don't know if there was a show before there was these movies, and there was a show, and these are sort of condensing parts of the show into the movie, then adding a bunch of stuff that. This was more like the show, the pilot, I guess. Yeah. So, and I could be wrong on that. It's possible, but I think there's a show too. And the character is named after their patron saint or demigod of children. So that's kind of interesting. Children. Yeah. And then the ice and cold spirit and stuff. Interesting. It's odd. It's also odd that Marx Cards, who doesn't like kids, watched a movie that's about a little evil, sort of semi-evil little demigod kid. I didn't like it. He doesn't mind if they're up on the screen. But yeah, Lilo and Stitch vibes too. The little creature in Stitch. So yeah, the first one. I guess this is a weird review because I'm kind of doing I already reviewed the first one. I'm going to review the second one. I did it reverse. So yeah, this is this first one. Saw the first one after the second one. Yeah. I guess I'll just put them together so you'll see in the review the second one after this one. Even though I would see the second one and then already. Not sure of all the backstory and stuff. Not sure the animators did fine. It was awesome. And but it is China, where they probably said, okay, yeah, you have to do this in a certain amount of time, or the lash. This one didn't have as much of a political message propaganda behind it. It was more about well, it was 2019 when it came out. There wasn't as much going on in terms of the area. They didn't. Yeah, and I guess he is technically a demon, but he's done it in such a way that aren't they all kind of acting like that at times as bad guys? Because it's vague whether they're good or bad. Yeah, that was 1, 2. No. Yeah, they go on an adventure. There's a thing. There's a big boss fight at the end with the birthday party where they got to freeze over the town, the freezing thing. and they learn about the other guy wants to sacrifice himself, but that doesn't work, and because he finds out about it, and so then the two of them, then the fire demon guy and the ice guy beat up in the clouds. They fight. Lightning comes down, blows them up. Hence the lead into the sequel. So they reincarnated them only to have them get blown up at the end. A very Kal Kat ending, actually. Oh well, anyway. So yeah, go into the sequel, and then they get rejuvenated in a really strange way, and then go and fight the Taoist gods in that one. And, although the sniveling guy in the sequel plays essentially kind of the same guy doing this thing, that's being sniveling, that skinny Voldemort looking guy. But he's obviously like not the main bad guy. The main bad guy turns out to be the other guy, which is kind of, yeah, you can't tell that was coming. Even in this one, there wasn't really a main bad guy in this one. It's more like, yeah, the sniveling guy was kind of the main bad guy in this one. But in the sequel, it's the other dude. It's the guy with the giant head. He's the bad guy. So yeah, it's just yeah, and then they just kind of retcon out the village itself. They just, don't worry about, the dragon thing melts everything and kills everybody. Yay. That's the sequel. But our heroes get away. It's messed up. They wanted to tell some sort of message. About stuff, I guess. It was fine. The visuals, it was good. It's fine. But if you're hyper religious, and don't want your kids to see kind of violent stuff or peep jokes or whatever, you probably ought to not see it. Especially not the second one. So yeah, if you happen to be squeamish, because it's a definite. Well, there are parts of that are definitely going to frighten very young children, and possibly other ones. So I'm not going to recommend it to those under 13. Not really. No. Anyway, so yeah, that's the movie. That's Ne Zha 1 and 2. This is Kal Kat, the Calicaster, and this is a review of Ne Zha 2. Yes, recommended by Marx Cards. It's the 2025 best movie, the animated movie of the year so far. The Oscars are tomorrow. However, there's hardly anything at the Oscars that are worthy, so Ne Zha 2. I've queued up the first one. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the first one. I saw 2, so I'll have to review the first one after reviewing part 2. I'll put them both in. So this will be part 2. This will be a review of part 2. So we have an ambitious Chinese animated movie, Chinese Hong Kong elements, kung fu stuff like that. We have definition characters, wizard kind of guys, and demon characters, and archangels and things like that, and mythical creatures, dragons. Their kind of dragons are supposed to be different from Western dragons, although these ones kind of act like Western dragons. They have so also they make fun of Buddhists and Taoists and stuff. Just kind of odd. They just don't like them. They really want to make fun of them up there. And then ironically have some of them do the yin yang symbol, which is from that. So yeah, I assume they're spinning around with the yin yang. That's part of that. So yeah, the subtitles kept calling them demons and angels and gods and stuff. I would say that for the most part they were demigods, though. They were sort of. I mean, yeah, there's a Cthulhu-like guy at one point who, a sushi kraken guy who one of his fingers gets cooked and then he eats it and he goes, It's pretty funny. So there's a Cthulhu. There's imagery from that in there. There's the imagery of the elder gods in there, which is weird because that's Lovecraft. That's in there. Of course, there's tentacles, but that's like Japan. So, this is China in the story. Clearly, it's a propaganda piece. Clearly, it's meant to be a spoof of Western culture, like taking over and stuff. Although it's weird because does that make the demigod guys living in the clouds? Does that make them Americans or does that make them Russians? The other West, the other way, the East West, the Eastern Dragon and the Western Dragon, that kind of thing. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's definitely some propaganda thrown in there. It's interesting that Marx Cards likes a movie series about an obnoxious, sprightly little boy who tells jokes. Only that he doesn't like children. Why would he like this movie about children? I had actually heard some stuff about it earlier, and I'm not going to go into any of the spoilers. It's the highest rated movie there. I'm not going to go into any of that. There was a debate. I'm not going into that, actually. We ran on to the movie. Yeah, so, yeah, it concerns that the Chinese yuan is that. But they've corrected it since then. In the last 24 hours, they updated the site to reflect the actual numbers. So it's fine. Anyway, so they've beat out Disney. By using some elements of album covers and things from other things. A lot of the imagery looks like an album cover when they stop and freeze frame it. From like some of the 90s punk and stuff like that. You have this precocious little demon god boy who's a he was apparently killed in the last one. Him and his friend were killed, and they have to have their bodies replaced by by conjuring up new ones out of the lotus milk and stuff, which is not at all suggestive. And having them go, there's plenty of giant tower things rising up and stuff, and yes, plenty of bathroom humor in the beginning. It's sprinkled throughout. There's a scene that Disney would never film, in which the character goes into a heavenly space bathroom and apparently takes a leak. They show it. Well, they don't show it. They practically show it. And it's like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is for children. There were kids in the theater. They're watching this. They go, oh my god. There were a lot of kids in the theater. That's not good. Yeah. Well, the scary, dark imagery apparently wasn't bothering them any. There was quite a lot of which Disney wouldn't do either. Old classical Disney would have. But I don't think Pixar would go anywhere near that. And previews for other movies like Helios and the others. But we'll get on to that later. I'm not going to go into the previews. So there's that was subtitles. It was there was a pseudo-Buddhist bad guy, angel, I guess, an angel leader, sort of archangel guy, little portly guy with a big head, and he tricks the heroes into going on a quest for him to round up the orbs, kind of like the celestial orb in Carta. The Grace Knob is the celestial orb, and also the cage bases from that. A little bit of Star Crackers thrown in there with the cage base turning all on fire at one point, breaking out of it, and the trees on top of it, that's an album cover too. The tree on top of it. There's all these imageries of the symbols for things just appear there over the world tree and all that as a joke. Yeah, the symbols are all there. Some of it I get because, ESL glass. I get some of the imagery that's going on. They give you things with the card and the jade things and the contagions and stuff. Get some of that. So I get what's going on. But yeah, so I don't speak Cantonese at all, but I got what's going on. So you have yeah, firm blend of animation and stuff like that. The thing is though that yeah, the animators in China are probably not getting paid very well, and probably a massive sweatshop to come out with a sequel to this movie 6 years later. That this is a sequel. That yeah, they probably worked themselves to death to put this together, and literally, so. I mean, yeah, it's not a free place over there. It's just not. I'm sure they were told you must do this or else, and then everybody in China when this came out in the early part of the year, everybody was ordered to see this at least twice. That's 2 billion people. They all went out to see it. There you go. There's your immediate 1 billion right there. And they were ordered to see it more than once. So, there you go. Yeah, they had to see it. No. There was also a TV show that's associated with it. But it is a lot. There's a lot of propaganda elements in there. It is. Faber Spark mentioned some of that when he did his review. But yeah, it's clearly anti-capitalist, like weird space heaven thing, anti everyone else other than them, and referencing like a god above them that they probably don't actually think is coming to get them. But yeah, it has all these yeah, it has Reagan imagery of different versions of different religions. They have their Taoist, Buddhist, and a lot of imagery similar to Korean from so the Korean had the symbol too, and their flag. Yeah, so there's a lot of yeah. They're supposed to be the yin and yang, even though they're not supposed to be male and female. They don't ever at any point say they're trans or gay. They would not do that in China. They wouldn't do that. But you can have a pig that farts. You can have a bathroom joke. You can have an I drink. They make the archangel guy accidentally drinks the contaminated water with the he peed in it because it wasn't supposed to be the bathroom. It was the water supply. Yeah, that's the kind of weird humor that it is. But yeah, and the pig farts later in a guy's face. They beat up the old guy when they take him out of the other realm and all that. And then in the outtakes at the end, you stay for the end credits, you get a Marvel like outtake. It's a spoof of Disney Marvel. It's what it is, in some elements. It's a spoof of. I would say it's more of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like we're going to do our version of Avatar and make it better than the American version of Avatar, which was an American thing designed to look like an anime. And also we're going to make fun of the really bad M. Night Shyamalan live action one too, as well. Yeah, and a precocious little kid that kind of reminds you of Toth from that show. But it was a girl, but it's like Toth. Also, the character in Turning Red from that movie Turning Red. Now the series, which predates the two movies, not series, which was referenced by some Chinese kids in the kids group, I think, earlier, and the series apparently was a series. Yeah, that one was earlier than Turning Red. So if anything, Turning Red is kind of copying this series. So yeah, once again, Pixar is just saying, oh yeah, let's just use this kind of artwork. Yeah, there's a copy. Except that was a girl in Turning Red. Yeah, there's a kaiju in it. There's a kaiju thing. There's a kaiju tree thing. There's all kinds of fun references to Japan in there. Also, they do the whole the kung fu on the bamboo shoots balance thing. Also very Taoist. They do a bunch of other stuff like that. They like kung fu fights and things. So it's definitely Hong Kong was involved in making this. The fight scenes are pretty spectacular for a cartoon. Yeah, and the visuals and stuff. It seems like it's very long. The first one here is 2 hours, and I think the second one, the one today was 2 hours. Yeah, they're just some things going on. The movie adaptation of the show, I guess. And yeah, I was going to reference something but it has nothing to do with it, so I'm not going to. But yeah, there was so they have to go on a quest. It's basically a hero's journey, and they have to find these magical objects so that they can go defeat the Dragon Lord guy. But turns out the Dragon Lord guy is hanging out with the other bad guy because he's like his father, I guess. And they're like hanging out, and they're like Dragon Lord guy and the other guy, and the village is evidently destroyed by the invaders, but it's actually a trick. It's the other invaders that did it. So the space gods are actually playing both sides. They intend to have everyone destroy each other so that they can win. Then have this kid demon rise up and destroy them too. Okay. So yeah, it's a different thing. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I guess they are technically demons, but I would say they're more like demigod archangel things, because at no point do they actually. Well, sometimes they turn evil, but at no point they aren't necessarily like classical Western ones. They're more like spirits that are dark, if they want to be dark, than they are the other thing. I guess for a Western audience, the title credits you have to see the demon. But archangel is probably more accurate. They're demigods. They're above the other ones. So there's some of the other planes of existence going on. It at first is not clear that a lot of the stuff that's going on, in a similar way to some of the works of Miyazaki, you're not clear whether this is Japan. In anime, it's different than anime though. I don't think there's in anime there's less of a message. In anime, it's just like, oh, this is we need, this one has a message, and it's clear that the message is China is awesome. That's the message, and everyone else sucks. It's clearly what they want to get across. They're not awesome. They just well, their animators are, but no one is above everyone else. Is what I'm saying. So you have and the yuan is about $0.1. So there you go. But yeah, you have and it's not like the yen, which is about $0.5. Anyway, so yeah, that's Ne Zha. Somebody mentioned this Wednesday. We were mentioning this movie. I'd seen it. Oh, what else? I haven't seen it yet. You gotta see the first one first. Well, I didn't. I saw the second one first. Anyway, but yeah, I did that before. You're going out and see the second one first. Did that with that other one too. That weird volleyball movie. I hadn't seen. I have still not seen the first one of the volleyball movie, or the Lock It Up Girl Part 1. I just saw the sequels. Yeah. What was the volleyball one? There was like a Japanese volleyball movie. I had seen the Hero Academia Part 2 instead of the first one. I had since seen the first one of that. Oh, okay. But anyway, that was